Hey everyone, this is Fiona, and in this video I wanted to share an experience I had the other day with microdosing on psilocybin mushrooms and doing a yoga slash breathwork session. So basically, my whole intention with doing this microdosing on psilocybin mushrooms and doing the breathwork was to basically like amplify whatever you're feeling. Because there's basically, with me, what I've noticed is there's a disconnect with what I'm feeling in the moment and how I react in the moment. A lot of times I will feel something and then it won't really register until hours later. There's something like someone might say something that's really kind of inappropriate and it won't register until like the end of the day or when I'm trying to go to sleep and I'm like, why am I angry? I can't fall asleep. And it's because there's something a boundary that was violated, or someone that said something inappropriate and I didn't stand my ground and say something. So yeah, my whole thing with going into this was to kind of, bring in more self-love and, just get out of my head, get into my body, be more focused as far as like not getting distracted with all this stuff that's going on, the election, the chaos, the riots, all that stuff. Instead of focusing on, the energies that are kind of pulling me in these different directions, my intention was about just being streamlined, focusing on myself, focusing on my music, and that was it. So basically, the ceremony, it took place in Santa Cruz. And you have to basically not eat from, so 10 a.m. is your last meal. And then the ceremony, we start the actual ceremony at 2 o'clock. So you have 4 hours of no food. And so when you have no food in your stomach, it basically makes it stronger. The medicine is stronger in your body. And this was the first time I've actually done psilocybin mushrooms in this capacity, where it was actually a guided type of experience rather than it just being like, oh, recreational and, with previous partners. So yeah, each pill was basically ground up. So it was like a ground up psilocybin mushrooms in a powdered form, and each pill was 0.02 grams. And so I ended up, they said take between start with at least 3. So I took 5. And it was actually pretty strong for only being, I think, because you have to take away the capsule, so it was about like half a gram that I took, and it was actually a really clean type of energy, and it's basically amplifying what you're feeling so that you cannot ignore it. So we started off, stating our intentions. There was a total of 7 of us, and there was 3 facilitators, and so you start off with stating your intention. What do you want to manifest during this session? What do you want to let go of? And then we started off with the yoga, and that was really nice, just stretching the body. I felt really tired, like really relaxed, because there's this point where we had the bolster on our back and I was just laying back and I was just like, and they're like, we're ready to start the breathing, and I'm like, I'm about to fall asleep. So the breath work is kind of intense, transformational breath work. So it's like you're breathing from your belly and through your mouth, and you're just kind of breathing in your goodness, and then the exhale is about letting go of what you're ready to let go of. So there was definitely a lot of anger that surfaced, and I think a lot of that has to do with not having my boundaries respected, not having clear, defined boundaries with people in general, in life in general. Growing up, my mom was always about, she's an Asian mom. She's all about like putting me in a million different activities. So it was like going from one thing to another, and I wasn't able to speak up. It was kind of like I had to go through this and just pushed myself through this. It was almost like torture, you could think about it, because I didn't really have a choice, and there were a lot of activities that I didn't want to do, and there were many times where I just wanted to just relax and be a kid, and I just had to kind of push through stuff. So it's like pushing through this pain and this torture, because if I push through the pain of just this hard work, and somehow I will reach a level of mastery that won't be possible if I were to be nicer on myself. And that's actually really backwards. So yeah, the whole thing is about getting in touch with my body. What does my body feel? Where does it, because it's almost like I have this, I don't know. It's almost like I've kind of neglected my boundaries, and I've just had to kind of push through this constant go, 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 go. And when it's not in alignment with what I want to do, then it feels like torture. It's like having to do something for 10 hours a day that you don't enjoy. And so that's where I've shut off my own red flag, boundary issue thing. Like anything that violates my boundaries, I've turned that off, because I'm like, I have to endure that level of pain and suffering because it's going to get me to this higher level of consciousness, or I'm going to be really good at this one thing. And so this was a really big wake-up call to authentically express what I'm feeling in the moment, instead of having it registered hours later or days later or years later, having it be something that happens right then and there in the moment. So yeah, it was, there's a lot of anger that surfaced, and the psilocybin mushrooms just really amplified that anger. So I was just like, screaming and yelling, and you beat on these pillows and you're crying. And I also felt this same kind of abandonment and anger that I felt like towards my mom. I think it has to do with being a baby that was, babysitters basically raised me. My mom had to work all the time. My dad was working all the time. So it was like being raised by people that weren't my parents. So I just felt this level of abandonment and like, oh, it's all my fault. And everything is just all this shame and guilt that I've kind of turned inward on myself. And, I've had partners that have really reflected that criticalness of my mom, and just like, I don't know, it was this big turning point it wasn't really a turning point. It's kind of old news, but it's like coming back to self-love. How can I self-source this love so I don't need to look outwardly, through relationships or people or distractions, to kind of distract myself from the pain, this abandonment energy, and how desperate I am for this outer approval and validation. So it was really, really powerful. And there's this thing that happens with me, this almost dissociative thing where I tend to check out if things get too scary for me. And that's when I leave my body. That's when I'm like, I can't handle this. Overwhelm. It has to do with my life lesson in hand analysis. And I think this was very much about getting back into your body, feeling the body getting out of the head, and staying with my experience. It was easier this time to not go and be, what do you call it? It's almost like I wanted to be distracted by other people's experiences, so I wouldn't have to focus on my own, because then I have to deal with the dark stuff. This time it was much better about kind of sticking with my own experience. And I think a lot of this anger and it's almost like a selfishness, like bitchy attitude that I've been kind of inhabiting more lately. And I think it has to do with being really clear about my boundaries and establishing them, being like, because I think in puberty, I didn't really have that pushback. I wasn't allowed to express my anger. I wasn't allowed to, tell people to back off. I was just nicing it up all the time. And that's how I got myself into a lot of dangerous situations, because I niced it up instead of, had this establishing boundaries, like back off, so it feels like I'm going through puberty again. No, it feels like I'm actually able to express my anger in a healthy way. And I think that putting my music first is like putting myself first, because whatever I'm expressing in my music is myself, is me. So it's like pouring myself out onto my canvas of choice, music. And I don't believe that we are meant to put relationships first. I mean, that could be true in your hands, especially if you have all loops and stuff like that. But for me especially, because I have the Simeon line, which is the straight line across, and I have school service, being a service to the world, my mission, my focusing on myself, focusing on my music has to come first, and the relationship has to support that. So this is kind of like doing the music, putting my music first, putting my art first is kind of like how I am loving myself and putting energy towards my mission. And yeah, I think the thing is right now that I need to watch out for is, putting all this energy into my music, but doing it in a way that's pleasing for me, and I'm not just doing it to please my teachers and stuff. That's another whole other challenge. So yeah, I think overall the ceremony was really powerful, and I would say it's definitely more gentle than the ayahuasca journey. And it was pretty much all women in the circle. And I think I need to do more things with women. I just need to really feel into the goddess energy and the letting go of the, one thing I noticed when I went to the performance was just this feeling like my boundaries were being trespassed, just especially with guys. And I'm not saying that all guys are like this, but this is like universe saying, hey, you really need to step up with your boundaries and really establish, where's your comfort zone? Where do I end and the next person begins? And being able to speak up about that. That's something that I think I'm really here to work on. It's part of my life lesson. So anyways, I do think that like microdosing on psilocybin mushrooms is very powerful. I probably won't do this often, but I'm going to have some sort of practice that I do once a month, because I think it helps keep me grounded, keep me in my body, get me out of my head, get me into my body. And I think it's just a really powerful thing to do. I did notice last night I had really powerful, vivid dreams. Yeah, kind of some interesting stuff. And then I don't know if I want to share it because it's kind of personal stuff. But the morning when I woke up, I felt very sensitive. Like my aura was really wide open. And so maybe I'll do a video on protection rows, because that's, once you do something that's really opening, people tend to want to get in your space. Like when I was on my walk, it's just like everyone was saying hi to me, and I'm like, I wanted to kind of keep my space. So it's kind of interesting that happens. So yeah. It's another thing I learned is that the previous psilocybin mushroom experiences I've had, I've just eaten the mushrooms just raw, and you don't want to do that. That's what causes the stomach distress, and I have a very sensitive digestive system. So what you want to do is you want to boil it, make it like a mushroom broth, and that way it's easier on the stomach, it's easier to digest. And yeah, you don't want to just eat them dried like that. That's not good. You'll end up with stomach problems, as I have in the past. Okay, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.